Press record. Okay, so welcome everyone to the Cosmic Ascension Waves of Light with myself, Soma ARah. And this evening we have a very, very special guest, a man who is dear to my heart and has no idea. I'm sure he doesn't. Joshus Shapiro, and also his wife is very dear to my heart as well. She's not with us this evening, but Katrina Head. And Joshus Shapiro this evening is the crystal skull explorer in America, and a man very dear to my heart. And I am going to explain a little bit to the audience before before he comes on and speaks, because he's very dear to my heart, and I'm sure he's not aware of it at all. I'm sure I've mentioned it a couple of times, Joshua, but I actually had a feeling that you thought I was coming on to you a little bit or flirting with you a little bit, and that wasn't the case. I just was trying to let you know how dear you are to me. So way back in the day, in I think it was 2010, I was sent this email. I'm just going to explain how we came to know each other. I was sent this email, and I was living in Ireland at the time in Lewisburg, and I just left my husband in London because it wasn't a good situation. And I was healing, I was recuperating, I was taking time out for myself, and I had this beautiful house on the beach. Well, the house wasn't beautiful, but the area was beautiful. The house was okay, but it was a beautiful area. I was on the beach, and it was a minute walk, literally, and there was a natural stream where we collected water, and very natural rural environment. And I was sent this email by a guy who, they have the saying in Ireland, when they think someone is a bit crazy, they call them cracked. So I thought he was a bit cracked. And because I was having this, I received this email from this random guy who I didn't know from Adam, who said that he had got my name from the ethers or somewhere. Someone had given my name. And I don't think it was a physical person. I think he was a spiritual being, or somewhere he got my name from. And he said he thought we should work together. And at first, I just thought he was a bit cracked. And it turns out I couldn't have been more wrong, because we got talking on Facebook, I believe it was. And as soon as we got talking, I started to channel the Pleiadians. As soon as, it was like he opened a door or switched a button. And I had already started to channel write, or automatic writing, or thoughts coming to me where I was writing in London just before I left my husband. And so Joshua is very, very dear to my heart. So I'd like to introduce, and it turns out he wasn't cracked at all. He was just very awake, aware, and conscious. And I had no idea who he was at the time. But it turns out it's Joshus Shapiro, who we have with us today, who is a crystal skull explorer. And I'm delighted you are here. It's so good to connect with you. There's been many years that have been in between then and now. And much has happened, both personally for me, and I'm sure you and Katrina, and also on the earth as well. There's many changes have taken place since then. But welcome, Joshua. I will hand the floor over to you.
Thank you. And It's nice to hear, because the greatest gift that any of us have is to be a catalyst to awaken someone to their true potential. So that I was able to help you with that is a great honor. That's what I hope happens whenever I do, these kind of conversations and interviews. The free ebooks, have 5 free ebooks for your listeners if they're interested. Whatever way it is, that is the greatest gift that we can offer. So, and the same thing too, like, when we used to have the ability to do public presentations, I should say, because it's been greatly curtailed. That too was the same. Just watching someone as you're speaking, having their head nodding and totally getting what you're saying and understanding it, or hoping that something that you shared that the person might use later on in life. Like I used to tell this story when I would do my presentations, because this would happen to me a lot. That's if you are willing to trust in yourself and be spontaneous and just go what happens. So like I said, pretend you're walking down a street and your spirit guides are saying, you see that person coming up to you, you need to start a conversation. And you argue with them. But I don't know that person. What the heck am I supposed to say? I have no clue. Please trust us. Just start a conversation. So you start a conversation to say, hello, like what you're wearing, a green dress or something like that. So you just say to the person something, that's a very unique dress you're wearing. Where'd you get that? And of course, every person likes speaking about themselves. So they'll probably answer you. And then the thing is during the conversation, you will say something that is very profound for that individual. And you won't even realize that you're doing it. It'll just come or whatever. And then 5 years later, 10 years later, that person becomes the head of their country. And as a result of what you said or whatever you did, they come in a positive way and they affect the lives of many people. So the reason I like that concept or idea is because for all of us, we're all children of God, and there are moments where God will manifest him herself through you, through some action, something you say or something you do that will totally change the life of other people. And that's why I think that we're here. But the key is you have to just be yourself. So in other words, in the crystal skull world, as my friend in Holland told me, and you may not believe this, Soma, but it's true, there are going to be people who love you and people who don't like you very much. There's nothing you can do about it because we each have our own way of doing things. But I think when I was in the presence of the Mitchell-Hedges crystal skull, which the guardian now is Bill Holman, there was one time where I got to go to his house. It was after we did some interviews for the Sci-Fi Channel here in the United States. They were doing a special because the Indiana Jones film was coming out with the crystal skulls. So I had a chance to meditate with this skull privately because I lived about an hour and a half away from him at that time. He was in Indiana, I was in Chicago. And so, I'm meditating and I'm listening to music on my MP3 player, and it's a really powerful meditation. But some presence came into the room. Now, I've never experienced such a presence before. It has nothing to do with galactics, like individual galactics. That's what I call the ETs, the galactics. So it wasn't like Pleiadians or Arcturians. It was something that comes from a level that's far beyond what we understand. It's a spiritual plane of existence. It probably was a group of beings. And all I know is that after doing my meditation with the skull and this presence coming, because I think the crystal skull opened up a dimensional door, so that's why it could be there. I learned how to stay in the neutral. And that's very important, especially for right now, because, I don't know if I'm allowed to say this or not. Facebook doesn't like it, but I'm going to say it anyway. Related to, let's call it the jabbies that is going on right now. Okay. We have to trust what we get inwardly about what we have to do, because we're being challenged on many levels. People are trying to force other people to do things that may not be for their highest good. And this is the greatest challenge that we're facing right now. And I mean, like on Telegram, which is probably one of the few places that's left where people are free to share, what's happening, what they think, all kinds of amazing information is coming out of there. It's like every day I check once or twice certain channels on there, what's going on in the world. And so many people are reporting problems by doing this. So, whenever I have a chance to speak, I always say, please don't do this. Please think about it. But even if a person does, I can't judge them because we all have I have to send them love, and I have to pray that when, how can I say this? When the peaceful,
when the Maxine?
No, I'm
No.
talking about the future when this peaceful world comes and all this great technology that we don't have access to comes. I'm praying that there's something within there that will help to heal the people who have taken the vaccine, because, what I keep hearing from people, now this is not only people who've taken it, but these are professional people who've actually been able to study it. What's in there is horrific, is really bad news. So, but anyway, what I was going to say is I've had two personal experiences where I know what the future is going to be. And I would like to share those.
Yes,
and then
please.
if your viewers are interested, I have a ebook. I was told I had to put this ebook together before I went on Coast to Coast, which was last year, which is like, one of the major radio shows. So I've been fortunate to be on there twice, but I haven't been on there with the main host. It's always a sub-host. So the first experience I had was when I lived in Las Vegas, of all places, which, by the way, has a very high rate of UFO clouds around it, probably because of Area 51 being close to there. And a van struck me from behind while I was walking down a major city. And
oh my God.
Well, I was protected. I mean, I went in the hospital and I had some physical challenges as a result, but I had to be protected because the street it went down was
were you hurt very badly?
Well, not so badly, but well, I have to describe it. So what happened is I heard a loud screech behind me, but I'm fearless, so I didn't do anything. And the next thing I know is my vision goes from white to black. So it means that this was a pre-planned event. They took the true essence of me out of my body, so I didn't experience anything. I just, like passed out, okay? And 3 days later, I woke up in the hospital. Well, I should say 2 days later, I woke up briefly and the doctor says, do you remember the car that hit you? And I thought he was crazy because I had no memory of it. And then 3 days later, I came back. So what apparently had happened is this, I don't know if it was a van. It wasn't a regular car. It was like a van or something. Was driving too fast, jumped the curb, struck me, hit a light pole, and I guess it stopped. And I flew up into the air is what I was told, and I landed in a gravel area. So, there was some side effects from it. When I came back, I was very low energy. Usually when you're low energy, it means you've been really, really out there. Okay, that's my interpretation. And I remember I had a bad scrape on my left ankle. And I went back to where this happened. And if there wasn't a dent in the light post by where I was, I wouldn't have believed that this happened. That's how protected I was. And then I remember when I flew on an airplane a couple of weeks after this to visit a friend.
Can I just intercept there? Can I just ask you, when was this with the van?
This was in, let me think, 1990.
Okay.
Okay, 1990. So I was living in Las Vegas for about a year and a half. And I remember I was walking to McDonald's to eat lunch, and then this is when it happened. So the most important thing about this is not miraculously that I wasn't seriously hurt, although it did take me a couple of weeks, to be able to go through an entire day and feel like, I'm full energy. It was what I remember that happened to me. And the reason why this is important is because I was shown our future. Okay, so this is what I remember. So I had to not be here so I could attend some kind of meeting in another dimension. And it was, the only way I can describe the meeting is if you saw the movie Star Wars, not the first one that came out, but the first one in the series, where Princess Amidala is talking to, on Trantor, representatives from all over their confederation or empire, whatever it was called. It wasn't an empire at that point. Okay, it was moving towards becoming an empire. And, you know, her planet was invaded and she was asking for help. So I was at a meeting like that. And I think there were a few other people that were there who were from the earth. Okay. And what it seems like to me this meeting was about is our beloved family. And I'm sure there were probably members of your family from the Pleiades that were there too, is different galactic beings were saying, you know, the earth is a mess. We have to help, but you know, we have to do it in such a way that when we reveal our presence, it doesn't create fear and panic, right? So they had, this must have been before even I was born, this was set up, I think. They needed some of us who were still in body to come to give them feedback about their plans. Nah, I don't think that's going to work. You know, that's a little too much. Oh, here's my suggestion or whatever. So that's what I remember. But but when I say I remember it, it's like, you know, when you see a movie, you only see like one or two scenes. You know, you can see one scene. That's how I do it. I see like one or two scenes and I go into the energy and I know what happened, but I can't remember it completely. I just know I'm at this meeting and I'm seeing like on a screen, 3D screen, you know, they're projecting possibilities. So I saw what was going to happen in our future. Now, when this finished, this process finished, and it was time for me to come back, I remember there was like a dimensional door in front of me, but it was black. I knew if I go through that door, then I go back to Earth, but I couldn't see anything on the other side. And there was some person who apparently was a good friend of mine, is probably, you know, from the things we do on spirit, not from this earth. And I was begging him and said, you know, I saw great stuff. You cannot take my memory from me. I need to come back down here and let everybody know what the heck I saw. It was so fantastic and unbelievable. And I said, no, we're sorry. You won't be able to function properly and do what you came to do if you remember everything. But here's what's going to happen. As things begin to develop, you know, like around you in your real time, okay, you'll know what's correct and what's not correct, okay? So this was one of my first experiences. So when I make that mention, that message I gave before about the V thing, I'm telling you because I saw that there and I know exactly why, you know, they're giving it to people. Okay, it's for another reset, like what happened in Tartaria. If people have heard of Tartaria. Tartaria was wiped out. We have no history about it. It was only like 200 some years ago when they did this. And they're doing another reset again. So, you know, the key thing is you have to go inside and you have to do whatever you have to do. If it's like if you're in the military and you're given an order that's unethical, will you follow it or will you not? Yeah. This is unethical. You can't do it, but it's free will choice. Okay. If you have family members who've done it, we have family members who have, you have to send them all the love in your heart and pray for the best. So that's the first experience. There was a second experience.
So let me just ask you, Joshua. So yeah. When did the experience where you went out of body and had the experience, when did that happen?
Okay, again, that was 1990 and I was living in Las Vegas.
Okay.
Okay, so that's when it happened. And a lot of what I'm telling you now, I didn't remember right away. It's over time. It started to come. Now, the other experience that I have just one quick question for you. Yeah, go ahead.
That you probably want to maybe answer later, but you were talking about Tara something.
Tartaria.
Tartarian. No, I haven't heard of that. Would you be able to explain at some point in this interview?
Yeah, we'll come back. We'll come back to it.
Thanks.
I actually did another interview with my friend Nancy where we talked all about it. So I have that's actually on my, it's not BitChute, Rumble. I have a Rumble channel now because I have interviews with Gene Decode, who's one of the key people that's talking about what's really going on behind the scene. So so for some reason he likes me. So periodically I get to interview him.
Well, that's because you're a beautiful, enlightened being.
Well, I do the best I can. That's all I can say. And I like myself, and I constantly have new adventures, which as an Aries I need. So it's good. Yeah, so I'll come back to Tartaria. It's important because it's a lesson about where we're going in the future, but it's also a lesson about what's happening now too. Okay, so this other experience deals with the concept that on the level of spirit, and I remember this and I can experience it within myself, but it's hard to explain in words. And I've also had it confirmed when I've interviewed spiritual mediums. Okay, I've asked them about this. On the level of spirit, time and space doesn't exist. Everything is in the simultaneous now.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
but here we have time and space. And, you know, we couldn't help other people if we couldn't function in the same way they function. Okay. So the reason I'm mentioning this is because who I will become in the future is talking to me now. His name is Arjus. Okay. He says, that's what I will change my name to. Now, he can't tell me what happens between now and where he is, because then I cannot become him. But he can tell me what is it like where he is.
So
okay?
do you channel him?
Well, I wouldn't say it's channeled because he is me. Okay. So what happened is when I was in Brazil, and I can't remember when this was, let me think. I'm not sure. I think it was, maybe it was around 2000 or something. Anyway, I was in Brazil because at that time, my ex-wife was Brazilian. Okay. Vera. And so we were in Brazil visiting our friends and family. I have a very strong connection with Brazil. And it's very interesting because Portuguese is the second language that comes to me easy. So usually when something like that comes to you easy, you've worked with it before somehow.
Yeah.
So like, you know, what I always try to do when I do my presentations, like if I would come to the UK, even though I speak English, I don't speak English the same way that you do. So I would try to see if I could get your accent, which of course everybody would laugh at me because I can't do your accent very well. I'm having trouble. I live here in Georgia in the South. And when I try to imitate the Southern accent of the South, Katrina says, you know, it's okay, but it's not genuine. We can tell you're faking it. It's just like when I speak Portuguese, you know, I'm going to have an American accent. There's nothing you can do about it.
I find it very hard to do accents. I can't do them at all.
Right. Well, sometimes I can, sometimes not. So anyway, when I was in Brazil, Arjus wrote through me. You know, I was at the computer and he starts writing about what the future is like. And I'm just sitting there typing and I see it and everything. And, you know, I don't know if I realized at that time it was who he was or, you know, if it was a part of me that was looking at the future, but that's my understanding. So what I want to do is I want to describe that future because this is what I also saw at the meeting where we're headed. Okay. And this is very important for people to understand because right now, let's call them the controllers or the globalists. They have many names. They want to do everything they can to promote fear, worry, concern, that you have to give your freedom away to have any form of life. But if you know with absolute certainty, as I know, and I know there are many other people who know the same, that is the absolute destiny of this planet or at least on this timeline, because we have other Earths with other timelines. Okay. And this is part of what I talk with Gene Decode about in the interviews, because we both agree on this. We are going towards total, complete peace. And right now, what's happening is we're being tested to the hilt. We all knew years ago, excuse me, take a drink here. We all knew years ago there would come a time of great challenge where people who are friends would be divided. People who are family members would be divided. Even in your spiritual family, there would be division and great challenge. Okay. But in a way, all of this is coming up. And this is part of what they talk about, like, when they talk about the good, so-called good guys, the white hat, the alliance, that most people wouldn't believe the truth of what's been going on behind the scenes for probably thousands of years. They have to see it before they're motivated to do something. Now, again, these were things I saw, in the meeting. I saw what was going on behind the scenes. In other words, I saw the truth, the light and the dark, okay? Because you can't do your work unless you understand the conditions that you're working under, as good or bad as it may be. And so going back to this future self, he said, what will happen is there's going to be a series of events, and I think there's a major event which hasn't happened yet, where
I would totally agree with you, Joshua.
Right. It's like the light is coming out in cracks right now, is the best way I could describe it. A lot of people are waking up. A tremendous amount of people are protesting too, by the way. That's what you see on Telegram that you don't see on the main media. So it means a lot of people are waking up. But what I'm trying to tell people is we're headed towards this positive future. Okay. And ARah just told me what it's like. He said, you're going to have communities, which would be comparable to our cities. And every person in that community is part of your extended family. Okay. All the adults are parents to all the children, which I didn't have any children in this lifetime, but fortunately, Katrina's daughter just gave birth to a baby this year.
Oh, and so beautiful.
So
you're a grandparent.
Well, I'm a
step grandparent.
Well, I guess Katrina and I are spiritually married. We're not physically, but anyway, her daughter said, "No, you're Papa. You're Papa." I'm honored that because when they come over to visit, right? When they come over to visit, this is the first time I've had a child that I've had to help take care of, and of course, this child is very intelligent, very alert. And every time I look at her, I can feel like we're talking telepathically. So I'm pretty sure she's one of the children that's being born for the future. Yeah. So let's see, what else did ARah just show me in the future? So it's like, he's giving me these visions in my mind, my mind's eye.
So you were talking about the community.
Right. So it will be based on communities, okay? And everybody, and the role that you play in your community is whatever makes your heart sing, that's what you do. Okay. So imagine you're living in a community, everybody's doing what they love to do. The whole vibration of the planet is love and peace and harmony. The galactics are walking amongst us. We can go visit with them. It's just a very harmonious place. And so ARah just actually shows up in a story that I've written with my friend Karen, who's in the UK, called, let's see if I remember. I don't remember, so I have to look at the book.
Yeah, show us the book, Joshua.
So this is our story that we wrote together. It's called Journeys into the Unknown and Back Again. It's a fictional story, but ARah just shows up in this story, okay? So what happens is there's a blue crystal skull, which is the one that I saw when I was in Peru, not physically, spiritually, okay? And I know I worked with it in Lemuria, okay? And that's why it was communicating with me. And so the blue skull, of course, shows up in this story too. And ARah just speaks through the blue skull to the main character, who happens to be a lot like me, Okay, except he has a different name, of course. Instead of Joshua Shapiro, is Joseph Schwartz, a crystal skull explorer
Okay.
with, you know, a woman like Katrina. So, so the key to the story is that Joseph is being prepared to go through a dimensional door that exists high up in the Andes Mountains in Peru, in exactly the same place where I had all my visions of the blue skull, which was near the border with Ecuador in Peru.
Wow. And does the blue skull, is it called the blue skull?
Well, I just call it the blue skull
Okay.
when I talk to it, because it doesn't exist on the physical level right now. Okay, but I see it all the time. I'm looking at it right now in my mind's eye. It just says my name is irrelevant, and it doesn't matter whether I'm a new or old or whatever. Everybody gets crazy about, oh, the ancient skulls. I have to see one. I have to be with one. No, the galactics or the spirits can work through the new skulls being made. Portal de Luz, which is the one that came to me first, which is on the cover of this other book with me, which is the amethyst skull. So this is the blue skull book.
Yeah, I
right?
saw that earlier on your website.
Oh yeah, so here's the book with the blue skull. Okay, so I'm writing a 300-page book about a skull I've not seen in the physical, but I've seen in my mind's eye. So that's what this is about. So, you know, it just says, you know, when I come, I'm just the blue skull, and, you know, I'm here to assist humanity. So it's possible our just in the future is with that skull, but that's 2037 to 2040 is what he tells me. So what I'm saying to your listeners and to you, by that time, total, utter, complete peace and harmony will be on this planet.
In 2037 and
2040. Now, we will have aspects of it before then, but it will be totally finished by then. So that's only like 16 years away. So it's not that long. I mean, if what we read about on Telegram, that, you know, there's military and they're going to, you know, take out these globalists, or they already have, or, you know, they're going to bring back the peace and harmony and help us to reclaim that. It's still going to take people a little bit of time to get used to a world where there no longer is conflict, a world where they can go into a machine called a med bed and all of a sudden they're 30 years old again physically, because that's what it can do. So we have all these advanced technologies. Or now we could bring up Tartaria, because Tartaria fits into this. So what Tartaria is about is a civilization that existed. Now, I don't know how long ago this was, but I have a man who is going to, I'm going to put everything he wrote, all his articles, in this new book I'm working on, which talks a little bit about Tartaria, but it talks about something else which is controversial, but that's what I like. I have to be involved in controversial subjects, whatever it is. Crystal skulls are controversial, UFOs, even being spiritual for a lot of people is controversial. But this one man I met on Facebook, he said that Tartaria existed for about 600 years. They were a very advanced, peaceful civilization. They were probably very tall. And the evidence that they existed is buildings that are still left here that have been co-opted for other purposes than what they were meant to be. For example,
you're not talking about the giants, are you?
Well, I think they were very tall.
Okay.
But there seems to be another level of giants that happened before Tartaria, which could refer to the Anunnaki or the Nephilim.
Yeah.
Okay. So this man talks about the Anunnaki too in his work, and, you know, it's talking about that humanity as we know it's only been around for 2,000 years, he claims. Now, I don't know, he claims he's getting this information from ancient records. So this part I don't know, but I'll share it with people. They can read it. It's very interesting. We have so many different theories about it, but Tartaria shows us that the history that we've been told of our past is false, okay? Because they totally wiped out all mention of it. So here's the evidence that they existed. They had a free energy system, which we will have again. Okay, this has been talked about. The way that their free energy system worked is they were able to go into the atmosphere, and they had advanced technology, and they retrieve the ether. The ether is the fifth element. In other words, we have fire, air, earth, and water. Ether is the fifth element, and from that element comes all the rest. I equate ether to the energy of the body of Creator. Like, there was a book written by David Wilcox, I think in 2011, and this is the part that stuck with me when I read it, because generally I don't read other people's books. Okay, I like short things, read short things. But for some reason, I found his book at the local library and I read it. And the part that stayed with me is his book was called The Source Field Investigations. Okay, so he was talking about the source field, which basically is Creator.
Yeah.
So if we understand that Creator is everything that exists, that we are a note in Creator's infinite symphony, or we are a particle in the body of God, then ether could be the substance of God, which empowers everything that exists in all universes. Okay, so it is a very powerful energetic force. The Tartarians understood how, with their technology, to go up into the atmosphere and to retrieve that energy, and they did it through their buildings. Okay, they had specific buildings that were designed with a machine inside, and possibly geometric patterns, which are linked to cymatics, which has to do with vibrational frequency, creating geometries and shapes and all that. So one example of a building that was part of this free energy is the Taj Mahal. The Taj Mahal has these towers and antennas and domes, and you will find all over the world, like in Moscow, they still have these buildings, St. Petersburg, many cities in Europe, and also here in the United States. There was an article that somebody found written in 1856, which was talking about the ruins in the United States. We don't have any ruins here in the United States, but in 1856 they did, because it was the buildings from Tartaria that were still left in the United States.
And where were they?
They were all in the major cities, like Chicago, where I was born.
So have they were recorded?
Have they been what?
They were recorded and documented.
Well, what happened is people were taking pictures back in the late 1800s and early 1900s. And many of those buildings, like even in Chicago, they had the World's Fair. And I've been all throughout Chicago. Very few of those buildings that were around during the World's Fair are left, because the controllers wanted to get rid of all evidence and proof of the existence of these people. Like, a lot of these buildings are cathedrals or churches, you know, they were not used in the way we use them. They were used to receive the divine frequencies and energies and share them with the entire planet. Mm-hmm. Also, there's something called star forts, which they say, oh, these were forts built by people in the 1600s. No, this was part of their system. The Arc of Triumph in Paris was an electromagnetic portion of that free energy system. So if you go into the histories told about how these buildings were made, we didn't have the technologies back then to do it. It would be impossible. Okay. There was a video that I watched by a gentleman named Iwar Anand, who has drawn a great following. He's done 2 series of videos. The first one was called The Lost History of Flat Earth, but it focused mostly on Tartaria. And then he did another video about flat Earth and, you know, like the controllers and the whole history, how they came about and what their plan is and so on. So there's one other thing I remember that's really important to understand, which we're seeing, and that is on Telegram. And I can't find, you know, I asked the person who posted, and she's posted so many things she can't remember, you know, where it is. I would have to go through thousands of listings to try to find it. There was like a manifesto that was shared by what the controllers, you know, their whole plan, what they're doing. And the main word I kept reading over and over was poison. We will poison people, and then we will give them a solution to the poison, which is more poison. and
Yeah.
we will keep doing it over and over again.
Yeah.
So kind of like, the first poison is COVID-19, let's say. Then the next poison is the masks, let's say, because they're not good for you. Then the next poison is the vaccines. Okay. Then the next one is the boosters. Then who knows what else? They'll just keep doing and doing and doing and sharing that. But there was one comment that I was very surprised that was in there. And so I'm going to share two key messages with your listeners, okay, related to this and what I've already shared so much. So you see, I'm getting involved in a lot of things that are not just crystal skulls, although crystal skulls are still important. And behind my computer, I'm talking to are all my babies or all my kids back there. So they're adding their energy to this, I'm sure. The point they made in the manifesto, which was very amazing, is they called creator prime creator. They acknowledged that there is a creator of love, but they said that somehow if they're in charge of this planet and the people are agreeing to follow what they say and do, creator will not intervene. This is their greatest fear. If people wake up and understand, we do not need to follow what they say and do. We need to totally ignore it. Don't watch the main media. Don't listen to what they say, like Biden here in the United States. He just came on television and said, okay, all the businesses, your people need to be vaccinated if you have 100 people or more. But it's not a law. They don't have to do that.
Well, that's a Nazi regime.
Right, exactly. One of the states, I think it's Texas or Florida, those are two of the key states, said, we're not going to pay any attention to what he said. We're not going to follow that at all. It's insane. Okay. So
did you say Texas and Florida?
Texas and Florida are two of our states that are really, their governors are good. They're really working for the people. If our states have a Democratic governor, then it has challenges. Okay. And there's a lot of challenges, but those with Republican, not all Republicans, okay? Because really it's not about Republicans or Democrats here. It's about, working for freedom and creating a peaceful world and taking what we create here and sharing it with the world. That's why I think the United States is very important. It's a better country, but it has.
It's an important one at the moment. Right.
It's important. It is fighting. Right now I'm hearing there are more protests starting to happen in the United States, but like in Paris and France, I forget how many days in a row they said they keep protesting. So they're leading the way from what I can tell. So this is the key, how to deal with it. So if you believe me and trust me, or if you already know, that is the future. Okay, I know it is the future. I watched it at the meeting, and ARah Joshus is showing it to me. Okay,
I have to say, Joshua, that I have been shown by the Pleiadians that is our future. We're going back into smaller communities where we're growing our own food, our own vegetables, our own fruits, herbs for medicine, and we're coming away from the big cities. We're coming away from big pharma. We're coming away from big supermarkets. We're taking back our power. And we're having our own clean water supply, smaller communities, rural areas, and not giving a shit about the governments and the big pharma and the supermarkets, taking back our control.
Right, because those things will not exist, okay, in this future at all. This is part of the reason why we haven't been accepted back into the galactic family, because we have to finish balancing what's here, and they are helping us from behind the scenes. But I think part of the big event, at least this is what I'm feeling, is they're going to do something, but they have to do it in a way that doesn't create fear and panic. Now, of course, their ships are showing up again on Telegram. I've seen, some really strange things in the sky. There was some people showing two suns in the sky. I don't know what that is about.
Let me just tell you that in my book, let me go and get it, actually.
Sure.
So this is my own copy. This is an author copy.
Okay.
The Pleiadian Child. This came about because of you.
Well, good. I'm trying to inspire other people to write, so I'm glad I inspired one other person, because we all have something to say.
Yeah. And one of the things they said to me, and I really do, like, you're so dear to my heart, because I don't believe without contacting me and sending me that email, I would never have started channeling the Pleiadians. But in my book, this is available on Amazon. They've told me that the Pleiadians have told me that there will be a time, and this does sound crazy, there will come a time when in my lifetime, where there will be what will appear to be two suns in the sky. So anyway, go on. I just wanted to mention that.
So I'm just saying there are strange things happening in the sky. Now,
and you were saying about the two suns?
Yeah, I saw two suns. Okay, so it was interesting. Now, it is possible because they do have a technology where they can make things look real in the sky, that are fake. Okay, so it could be that. Or it could just be, we don't understand how things manifest in the physical. Okay, so the higher beings can manifest things into our reality that, look real, which are signs or whatever. Now, because of what I know, and I've changed my mind how I look at the reality on our planet, I could see how a second sun might show up, because I have a different view of how the sun works than most people. Okay, so
what is your view on the sun?
Okay, so I don't believe that we are in a solar system. Okay, I believe that we are in a stationary flat plane. That's what flat Earth is about. So the sun, and I've extended my energy upward, and it feels that this is correct, is only between 40 and 45 miles above the surface of the Earth. It is very tiny. It's probably only like maybe 50 miles across, but it is a plasma projected light. It is a plasma projected light. And there is a man that I met who worked in our military, who knows applied geometry, and he created some kind of device where he was able to measure the angle of the sun. So what he said was, finally I could understand, because, to him, he knows what he's talking about, but I'm trying to bring it down so the average person could understand. What he discovered is when he was measuring the angle of the sun, he kept saying, well, if the sun is at an angle greater than 45 degrees from the location that I'm looking at it, then we can't be on a round planet. Okay.
There has been a lot of, I just have to say that I personally, I don't believe in flat Earth, but also I'm open-minded, because we could be wrong. Earth could be flat. There is a lot of supporting evidence that the Earth is flat.
Yes, there is.
Yeah.
And the book I'm writing will be probably over 300 pages.
Wow.
That's how much evidence I found. Okay, so what I'm saying is, if we go by, it's called the heliocentric model. The sun would be 93 million miles away, much larger than how we are, right? And we're on a round surface. Mm-hmm. So based on this, and applying, I guess, geometry and trigonometry and all these things, the highest the sun could possibly be in the sky based on those conditions is 45 degrees. And yet this man is measuring 50 degrees, 53 degrees. He's measuring greater than the 45 degrees. Okay. So he says that this is absolute evidence that the sun has to be close, that it can't be that far away. Mm-hmm. So you asked me, I'm telling you what I understand. Mm-hmm. There was one man named Brian.
Let me just quickly mention that I don't know if you've heard of such a stone. He's an activist, I guess you could say, an activist for New Earth. But he's an amazing guy, and you should check him out. But he has I think he's the same, coming from the same perspective I am, where he's open-minded to the possibility that Earth is flat. But he's had a lot of, you have to check him out, Joshua, he's really amazing. Sasha Stone, but
Okay,
Right?
I'll look for him.
But he's had a lot of Sasha is SACHA stone, but he's
Okay.
had the some of the greatest minds on earth and scientists look into the flat earth theory, and with scientifically measuring if it's possible, and the findings, the results are that both possibilities of the earth being flat and the earth being round are possible.
Yeah. So there's a test a person can make to know if the earth is flat or round. Okay, but it's based on the following assumption. By Pythagoras' theorem, if you live on a round ball that's 25,000 miles in diameter, then the curvature of the earth will be defined by the following equation. For every mile you travel away squared, the earth should curve 8 inches down. Okay. So in other words, if you go 1 mile away, it'll be 8 inches. 2 miles would be 8 times 2 squared would be 32 inches. Okay.
Yeah, I've
So,
heard this before.
right. So say there's a boat that's on the lake or the ocean that's 30 miles away from you. Okay. If the earth is round, the curvature of the earth will totally hide the boat from you.
Yeah.
Right?
That makes total sense.
Right. However, that's not what.
How could it be any other way?
Right. But however, that's not what happens. If I take one of these cameras with a high powered zoom and I know where that boat is, I'll be able to see it straight on. Straight on. That should not be possible. That's the simplest test that a person can do. Now, the other thing is I have a friend, Shirley, that I just met, who was introduced to me by a friend on Telegram who's sharing all kinds of stuff. It's an amazing lady. Her name is Shirley Jai, said I can say her name. She interviewed a pilot from one of the large airlines. Okay, so I'm just offering these things. It's not for me to convince anyone. Okay, but if people want all the information that I've picked up, even things that these main they call themselves flat earthers talk about, I have stuff even beyond what they're talking about that I found, because that's who I am. I'm going to find the best stuff. But anyway, she talked to the pilot and said, okay, so again, if the earth is round, right, and there's curvature and you're flying a plane over the earth, you have to start shooting it to go downwards in order to stay in alignment with the surface of the earth, right? Okay, because it's curving down. But if you ask the pilot, are you flying the nose down? That's what Shirley asked. No, we're not doing that. Are you sure? Shouldn't you be doing that because the earth is? No, we're not. We just fly it level. We just fly it level. You don't fly it curved down. Now there's another thing, and I'm going to probably mispronounce it. The Colossi or something like that effect, Colossi effect. It is an effect when a planet is rotating. Okay, when an object's rotating, then there should be a compensation you have to make when you're moving. So again, if you ask an airline pilot, do you have to make any compensation? Because this is all the pilot said. Only compensation I make is if the weather or the wind, nothing else. Okay. So you don't have to compensate because the earth is rotating. No, we don't worry about that. Now, I used to pitch when I was younger in baseball, which you don't have this sport in your country, but it's huge here. We have our playoffs going on, and my new nephew and I were just watching all the games. That's my way to relax. But I used to be a pitcher. I actually went to the Field of Dreams baseball field, if you saw that movie Field of Dreams, and I couldn't throw like.
I think I did. Yeah.
Yeah. So I went on the mound and there was a young man there and they gave me a glove and I tried to pitch. I couldn't do very good. My arm's not, like it used to be. I had to lob the ball to get it over the home plate and I had to move up. I couldn't do it from 60 feet, but I didn't have to make ever, when I pitched, any adjustment whatsoever throwing a baseball because the earth is spinning. Okay. And the same thing I asked this man, Corey CAWL, who did, looking at the angle of the sun. I said, when you would fire your weapons in the military, did you have to take into effect, a compensation for the CAWL effect of the Earth rotating? No, we didn't have to do anything. They did something with parallax, which I don't fully understand, and I don't know how to explain it yet, but it's like having two things in parallel, and then they could fire it. Okay, so nothing. So these are just, and then there's one other thing that was pointed out. If the Earth was rotating and you're flying a plane in the direction it's rotating, that's fine. But if you're going against the rotation, the Earth would rotate faster than you would fly, right? Because planes go 600 or 700 miles, and they're saying the Earth rotates at 1,000 miles an hour. So you literally would have to stay where you are and wait for the Earth to rotate and stop at the place that you have to go if you go in the opposite direction. Okay.
It's fascinating, Joshua.
So, I mean, these are just simple things that I heard, and I go, I have to investigate this because it makes sense. And there's a lot more. There's one other thing that came up in my study that I guess I'm supposed to share because it's in my mind right now. So in the 1960s, they went to Antarctica. And by the way, in the flat Earth model, Antarctica is not at the bottom of the Earth. It is the ice wall that is at the outer edge of the flat disk. The entire outer edge is Antarctica.
That would make complete sense.
So I don't know which part of Antarctica they went, which, by the way, now you are forbidden to go there. If you try to go there, you will be intercepted. And if you don't leave, they will arrest you. It is forbidden to go there.
Yeah. I have, let's really get into Antarctica, because I have some information from the Pleiadian. And I'm not a flat earther, but I'm open-minded to the possibility, because I'm very well aware that we've been lied to on a mass scale. Yeah, so maybe this is just something else we've been lied to, about as well. So anyway, I just did an interview a couple of days ago with Brad Olson, and we talked somewhat about Antarctica there. And because he's actually been to Antarctica, but I did an interview a couple of years ago with a guy called Bill Peters, who I'm still trying to get in touch with. But he was saying that he had been in the military years ago, and he was interviewing me at the time a couple of years ago, but he'd been in the military a few years ago, and he was sent to Antarctica, and he had seen this, he'd seen with his own eyes, he'd seen this ancient wall with, I think it was hieroglyphics or ancient writing or Sanskrit or something on it. And he asked questions about it, and then they told him, they changed the subject and told him to go over there and do something, and then he was gone, that he was sent somewhere else because he started asking questions. So I've been told that Antarctica there's a huge amount of like a cavern or something beneath Antarctica, a huge cavern, not a little cave, but a huge cavern or cave beneath Antarctica, and that there are craft there, or a large craft, and a lot of secret, there's a lot of secret stuff going on in Antarctica. Right. And once they're found, I've been told that once those things are found, whatever they are, whether it's a huge cavern or an underground base or a huge craft, whatever it is, or maybe it is a wall, maybe it's a sacred site that we haven't been told about, that's been hidden from us. But whatever it is, that is going to be, the ice is going to melt, or something is going to happen. The ice is going to melt, or the land's going to shift, or something's going to happen where the area at Antarctica is exposed, and we find that it's. I'm talking about humanity finds that it's whatever is found there is huge, has huge implications to humanity, and the media corporations won't be able to keep it silent, where everybody knows about this discovery. So that's really interesting, and this is in my lifetime. This is not, in future generations. This is in my lifetime. So, and that's huge. That's really huge. But anyway, go on.
Yeah, well, that would be why they don't want you to go to Antarctica, is to see the things there, or possibly to see part of the dome.
Yeah.
That's over the Earth from the planet. But anyway, this is definitely came out. So in the 60s, as I understand, they're mining into the ice. Okay, so normal ice is either cloudy or white. They found what they called sky ice, which was a blue ice under the ground, huge amounts of it. And my understanding is that it did not function like regular ice. In other words, I think it was, you could bend it. I remember them saying you could bend
Wow.
it. They could not take it out of Antarctica because it wouldn't melt, but it would evaporate at higher temperatures. Okay, so they had to leave it in Antarctica, and it just had very strange properties. I think it was very strong. You couldn't break it. So in other words, it didn't function like regular ice. And apparently it's all over the place. So that was another thing that I heard about Antarctica besides the other stuff. So it's just very interesting. So I think basically the prophecy is happening, that the truth is coming out. A lot of people are going to have trouble either with what's been going on behind the scenes that we haven't been told, or that the world as we know it is completely different. You know, it's like you have to go through a total shift. Like if Tartary existed, then does that mean all the histories we were told isn't true? Did Christ really exist? Because these, on the Tartarian buildings, they had, you know, like the Star of David, the cross, things like that. And we were told that was religious symbols, but it had nothing to do with religion. It had to do with a symbol to help to bring forward the free energy. So, and, you know, and then if this man I met on Facebook, you know, because he's kind of paralleling what Zechariah Schnitzin talked about that he read in the Sumerian tablets, that, you know, there were these tall race, he called them the Anunnaki. He talks about them too. And they came here to mine the earth, and they were the ones who created humanity as we know. Okay. And so I don't know if that's true or not, but if that could possibly be true, you know, but again, we don't know, because the people in charge of teaching us the history, they're very good at creating, you know, total movies out of nothing. So we don't know. Now, one thing that I read in a book by a man named Ewing, who I think is British, he said that what the controllers would do, like they would have, and I think this happened in England too, and different countries in Europe, they would have monarchies that would last for so long, and then they would just duplicate the characteristics of that monarchy in another country and change all the names. So, you know, if you compare this monarchy in England to one in Holland, you know, the same things happened to their monarchs, you know, their experiences, everything, they just had different names. So this was a clue to see that past histories, because the man on Facebook says, Greece and Rome did not exist, and neither did ancient Egypt. Okay, so they could have manufactured. I've seen pictures, for example, on, you know, alternative videos where one of the statues.
You mean the land didn't exist?
No, the lands existed, but the civilizations didn't exist.
Okay.
That's what he's saying.
Okay.
So this is what I think is going to have to happen. Probably people like you and I are open to spirit. You know, if we get told things that really upset our reality, our foundation of our reality, we'll recover. You know, we'll, you know, look at it like I'm looking at flat Earth. I didn't know if I was going to agree with it or not back in June. But after, you know, some of the things I'm telling you, and there's a lot more beyond that, you know, then I go, okay, then it makes sense. But as Katrina says, it doesn't matter if we're on a flat Earth or round Earth. No, because we're here in this reality, right? We got to deal with what's going on right now. It's just that if we are in a flat Earth and that, you know, we're being lied to, there has to be a reason that we're being lied to. There has to be something about the flat Earth they don't want us to know. And there's something about the round Earth that keeps us, you know, like in fantasy. And I hate that, because my favorite thing is sci-fi, where we go on spacecrafts and we go flying around. I'm not so sure outer space exists like we think it does. Now, I will tell you, I have a friend, Dr. Phil is what I call him. He's a spiritual brother. And I interviewed him twice. He has.
That's not the famous Dr. Phil in America.
No, that's why I say we call him Dr. Phil. It's not that guy. And he is a spiritual medium. And Heltor, who is a Pleiadian, and he is I guess he's high in their structure, whatever, he's one of their leaders or whatever, spoke through to me twice. And he says that the Pleiadians come here through stargates. In other words, they're not, and their world is the same as ours. Their world is the same as ours. If they want to visit the Earth, they just set up their stargate, they come in, and their spaceships may be created totally by the mind so that we can understand them.
Yeah.
Okay? Because one thing I noticed is if you go back in history.
I just want to add that I've been shown that they use the way they use the craft to navigate the universe is actually through their minds.
Yeah, so it's through their mind. So if you study UFOs, you'll notice that the sophistication of the UFOs we see in the sky, like from the late 1800s, when people start talking about seeing these strange things in the sky, they get more sophisticated over time as we get more sophisticated in our technology. So I think
it's evolution.
Well, but I think what it is that, they're trying not to totally overwhelm us. Like when a person sees a craft in the sky, it creates curiosity. What was that? How could that possibly be there? What's that about? And for some people, they'll actually go look and search it out. And for other of us, we know, oh yeah, I know what that is. Okay. Well, what are you up there for? Do something. We need help down here, but they have to be careful. They can't, directly interfere per se. But I think it comes back to that manifesto I talked about. It's kind of like the 100th monkey effect that Ken Keyes wrote about a long time ago. When a certain number of human beings totally get what's going on, then the galactics will be able to show up, okay? Because we'll start shifting into more peaceful people. And then they can show up and, but probably the Pleiadians can get away looking like us. I think they have a way where they could be walking amongst us and we would think they're a human being because they look like us. They're just taller and their aura is very bright. That's my understanding, because their vibrational frequency is, of course, much higher, and violence and aggressiveness just doesn't exist for them. That's not possible. And that's why I'm saying that's where we're going toward. The children of the future will not know about violence, or they won't believe us when we tell them, here's what we had to go through. Oh, come on, that's not possible. You're making it up. That's a story. They're not going to believe us. Okay.
And they've also told me that they come from the future, that from the future into our, I think it's their future or their past into our future or something like that, but they come from the future basically. Right. And something happened on Earth. There was an event or something happened, which is probably still to come, if it does manifest, or if we're on that timeline where that they wanted to change it, they wanted to change the outcome of it or to stop it from happening. So that's really interesting, because I think that is probably to do with the big event, whatever the big event is that's to come.
Right. And so to me, the big event represents something that happens, kind of a miraculous nature, which people can't deny. And it's like a catalyst. It just sets a chain reaction, and all of a sudden people start waking up and so on. And like what am I thinking about? I actually have two stories. The one I told you, it's not in there, it's in the other one. It's called Crystal Skull Chronicles. So in Crystal Skull Chronicles, which I haven't really released, and I don't know, it just doesn't feel right to do it, or maybe there's some other people that are supposed to help me with it. What happens is that the 13 skulls come together in...
Hey, hold on, Joshua. I just need to go, and I'll just be 2 minutes.
Okay.
If that's okay. Unless, did you want a break before we continue? Because I'd really like to continue if you've got time.
I need to ask Katrina. Katrina, how much time do I have left before your call? She says I only have about 5 minutes.
Okay, so I'll just be 2 minutes then. If you could just hold the floor.
Okay, I will. So I don't know if anyone's listening, but I can talk about the 5 free ebooks that we have. So we have a book on crystal skulls. We have a book called Messages from ARah Joshus. So it talks about these experiences I shared in more detail. There's one because of Gene Decode that I talk about what I think is really going on behind the scenes, kind of an overview. There's another one on, are we in a computer simulation? And then there's one on Tartaria that I did. And Tartaria is more a high-level summary with links to incredible videos you can watch. So the key to getting the free ebooks is you can either find me, Joshua Shapiro, Crystal Skull Explorer on Facebook, or send an email to crystalskullexplorers@gmail.com and just say which of those free ebooks you want, and I'll send them back attached in an email. I was just talking about the free ebooks while you were gone.
Oh, that's great. Thanks for sharing that, Joshua. And so do you want to continue, or I was just thinking, I'm just so delighted to finally be able to talk to you after all these years and to connect in with you. And you are such a dear soul to me, but can you do another interview next week, or?
I can do another interview early November.
Okay, great.
If you want to continue.
Yeah, that would be great. But anyway, continue, because I'm here for as long as you've got.
Okay, so I have a few more minutes. So basically, you know, as a human being dealing with all the craziness that's going on the earth right now, I think what the key is, what people can take from all these things we're talking about, is if you feel that we are heading to the positive future, what is the most important, because we're all powerful, we're all children of God, is try to visualize in your mind, what would that world be like for you if everything was wonderful and great and you could wake up in the morning and go outside and start dancing and singing and nobody would think you were crazy, or you could go to your neighbor's house and they invite you in, you know, or, you know, you have a meeting to see the glow. What would that world look like? Try once a day to visualize that in whatever form it comes to you. Because what happens is our thoughts are powerful, and it could send out, you know, this positive vision, positive energy, and other people would be doing it. It's kind of like what we do when we have our Crystal Skull World Peace meditations. We have people from all over the world working with their crystal skulls, and we're focusing on the energy of peace for the planet. And we did that for several years, and we had Crystal Skull World Day and so on. So it's the same kind of concept of us all visualizing and working together. Don't give your power away if something doesn't feel right. You know, you can say a nice no. Thank you for your suggestion and advice, but it doesn't feel correct for me, so I'll have to pass. You don't have to get into an argument about it. Just, you know, like a lot of times, if I don't agree with someone, like let's say it's about flat earth, because there are a lot of people who, nope, I can't buy that. I'm not going that route. Okay, they're not like you say you're open. I'll just say, okay, so we agreed to disagree then. Okay, we don't, Creator didn't make all of us to be exactly the same on everything. We have our strengths, we have our weaknesses, we have our different views. That's the beauty of being on the earth, is we can sit in a group of people who have different views, and we can say, you know, that piece, that person's, I like that. I'm going to include that in my reality. So it's kind of like, you know, the sharing. So it's just the idea of knowing that even though, you know, it may be looking very challenging and dark, it's looking that way because those other people, they're losing and they're trying everything they can to hold on, and it's not working. And it is divine will, it is Creator's will that we're going to have peace here. And when enough of us, as their manifesto says we're not going to agree with these people, and that's it, it's over, and it's time for the event, or, you know, something's going to happen. And the other thing is, Telegram is the best place to find out what's happening right now. I know that there are people saying there are some channels where they're, you know, giving misinformation, or, you know, they're trying to give out the wrong thing. But, you know, whatever the technology the people developed Telegram used, it's not really being interfered with.
Well, that's good. That's good.
So
I found it quite hard to use Telegram to get my head around it, and a couple of my friends have as well. But I must start using it more. So
yeah, because the key thing is you join a channel, and that's how you get the information, and that's where you can share your information. So,
okay.
So Soma, I want to thank you so much for having me here, and we will set up a time in November to continue our discussion and go in whatever direction is appropriate for that time. So God bless you, and thank you for sharing, and I'm glad that I was able to be of some assistance. Like I said.
Thank you, Joshua. And please, can you, and it's been so delightful to finally get to talk to you, finally, after all these years. And
Right.
please will you share your website and books, and how can people find you?
Okay, this will be the last thing, then I need to go. So email is crystalskullexplorers@gmail.com. And then the website is cse.crystalskullexplorers.com. So that's the best ways to reach me. So just send me an email if you want the free ebooks, and then Soma will let you know when we're going to do our next interview. So God bless you, and thank you so much today.
Thank you, Joshua, and give my love to Katrina.
I sure will. Okay,
and I'll see you soon.
Okay, bye for now.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.